Most senior housing operators have the right systems in place. The sales team, the clinical staff, and the billing department all do their jobs well, operating their own software efficiently. But when you look closer, these individual gears are spinning at completely different speeds, physically failing to interlock. Walk into any well-run community and ask a basic question. What exactly is happening with a specific resident's care right now, and is the building actually being paid for it? It seems simple, but answering it accurately is surprisingly difficult. You immediately get routed through at least 3 separate systems that were never built to talk to each other. Sales and move-ins live over here in a CRM, clinical assessments set in an electronic health record, or EHR, and billing is locked away in an enterprise resource planning system, the ERP. Each piece of software is highly competent at its specific job. The problem is that none of them hold the complete profile of a single resident. They hold fragments. The result is an operation swimming in data, but entirely devoid of a unified truth. Here is what that fragmentation looks like on the ground. A resident's care needs increase over the winter, and the nursing staff correctly logs that higher acuity in their clinical system. But the billing department is blind to the change. They continue charging the lower rate quoted during the initial sales cycle. To bridge that gap, operators have to rely on manual reconciliation. The connective tissue of the business lives entirely in fragile spreadsheets, or worse, solely in the heads of a few experienced directors, holding it all together through sheer memory. You cannot fix this structural problem by buying another analytics dashboard. A dashboard just copies rows of data from 5 different systems and displays them side by side. If the CRM and the EHR disagree on a resident's status, the dashboard has no way to decide which one is correct. Over the last decade, the senior housing industry purchased a massive amount of software applications. What it didn't buy was a central brain to govern them. The industry does not suffer from a lack of technology. It suffers from the stark absence of a true operator-controlled operating record. An operating record is completely different from a dashboard. A dashboard is just a viewing pane. A true operating record is an intelligence layer that actually governs the operation. And to work, it must possess 3 strict properties. First, it must be canonical. That means it generates exactly one authoritative version of each operating entity. Second, it has to be governed. When 2 databases disagree, the record applies explicit survivorship rules. It automatically decides which system is most reliable for that specific data point, rejecting an outdated CRM entry in favor of fresh clinical data. Third, the record must be operator-controlled. The operator of the business, not a software vendor, has to own the data model and retain the absolute right to exit with that data intact. Look at the text in this document detailing the IQVIA versus Viva litigation in the life sciences sector. For 8 years, 2 massive technology companies were locked in a dispute over whether customers were being impeded from accessing and moving their own data. That is what occurs when you let a vendor govern your access. The only structural defense against being locked inside a vendor's walled garden is self-enforced governance and explicit data ownership. This diagram shows the architectural blueprint for that governed system. It strips the entire senior housing business down to 6 canonical entities. The top row anchors the human and financial elements. You have the resident, which merges identity and tenancy, the care plan, which measures clinical acuity, and the ledger, which tracks exactly what was billed and collected. The bottom row anchors the physical reality of the business. The shift logs the actual labor used. The property or unit tracks physical inventory, and the entity manages the legal and ownership structure. To make this architecture function, operators have to stop wiring every new software application directly to the others. Instead, each system connects just once, publishing its data exclusively to these 6 central anchors and subscribing to the unified result. By forcing all applications to resolve against these exact same entities, a phrase like care level finally means the identical thing to the nursing staff, the billing department, and the regional director. When sales, clinical, and financial data all point to the exact same resident in the exact same building, operational reconciliation stops being a stressful manual aspiration. It becomes an automatic computation. That computation allows operators to generate a new benchmark, the quality occupancy score. This score weighs clinical assessments, precise billing details, sales concessions, and total labor spend against one another, all in real time. If a community is delivering a higher level of care than the resident's active lease dictates, the record immediately flags the discrepancy. The operator can correct the billing code while the financial month is still open, rather than waiting for a year-end true-up. Or consider labor. Instead of staffing based on physical bed counts, the labor supply adapts directly to the precise medical acuity of the residents in those beds. You eliminate the unjustified premium agency labor used to cover unexpected spikes. These automated corrections act as direct structural defenses, actively preventing massive revenue leakage and operational waste across the entire portfolio. This text highlights how manufacturers faced an identical spaghetti architecture problem a decade ago. Their solution was the unified namespace, a single, structured model of the whole operation. It is a tested, governed pattern that acts as a central source of truth, decoupling the systems that produce data from the ones that consume it across multiple global industries. Senior housing and care is simply late to this evolution. Adopting an intelligence layer above your fragmented software is an inevitable necessity. Which leaves a final question. If you don't own your operating record, you are essentially renting your own business brain from a vendor. Who owns yours?